Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for an informative and exciting Global Cruise Line webinar with Quark Expeditions. My name is Johanna de Guzman. I'm the Manager of Industry Relations for North American Travel Trade Membership here at CLIA, and I'm quickly going to go through some housekeeping before introducing our presenter. The webinar will run for about 40 to 45 minutes with time for questions at the end. Please feel free to type your questions into the questions module of the webinar, and we will get to them at the conclusion of the presentation. This webinar is being recorded and will be posted on CLIA's YouTube channel, CLIA Global. It is my pleasure to introduce our presenter, Rebecca Stacy. Rebecca is the National Accounts Manager for the Eastern US and has spent the last 14 years in the travel industry working for a wide range of companies, including mass market, river, expedition lines, and as a travel advisor. Ever since her first expedition to Antarctica, she immediately fell in love with this style of exploration. She is excited to be a part of the Quark Expeditions team and share her passion for polar travel with others. And with that, take it away, Rebecca.
Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for joining me today. As Johanna mentioned, my name is Rebecca Stacy, and I am actually out here in sunny California. Sorry, Johanna, I think we sent you the wrong byline for the wrong person, but the other part was all true. So much like your clients, and I want you to keep on thinking about your clients throughout this entire presentation. You know, my trajectory in the travel industry is just like the way that they have traveled and who that right person for expedition is nowadays. So I started off call center Princess Cruises, so mass market cruising, worked for a river cruise company. I was on your side at one point. I was a travel advisor for a little over 5 years. And after going to Antarctica, South Georgia, and the Falkland Islands, I absolutely fell in love with expedition travel. And so that is why I'm with Quark Expeditions now. So I'm here today to talk to you guys a little bit more about who Quark Expeditions is. You know, expedition has absolutely blown up. I mean, when I was with River Company now over a decade ago, so many of those same conversations about what is a river cruise, what do you do, and those small little nuances about, you know, how do I pack, all of that is happening today with your clients asking you about expedition cruising. And then on the other end of so many new companies out there, you know, who do I trust? Who do I go to when I need questions about, you know, what time of year should I have my client go to Antarctica? What can they expect to see when they're up in Northeast Greenland? You know, all of that's coming and happening as well. So thank you so much for joining me today to learn all about expedition and Quark Expeditions and who is that right client for an expedition and how do I grow my business, because this really is that next new trend that's coming down the line. You all see it when you go to your conferences and you see how many new people out there, and you get those emails and people coming up with brand new cruise lines that have never done expedition before, coming out with new expedition ships. And one thing about Quark Expeditions is, you know, we have been around for over 3 decades, and all we do is polar. So all we focus on is the north and the south. You won't see us, you know, dipping our toes in the Maldives or anywhere else. That is our specialty. We were the first company, you know, to take guests to the North Pole. We were the first to confirm the Emperor Penguin Rookery Snow Hill, which we actually are doing to this day, and we have coming up this November. So if you have any last minute clients that want to have that absolute fantastic once in a lifetime experience seeing Emperor penguins, you know, give us a call. We still have a little bit of space left. And so we are pioneers in the expedition space. And they, you know, when they think of Quark Expeditions, you know, all we do is the Arctic and Antarctica, and kind of think of us as sort of like destination specialists, that we do our destination by cruise ship though. And part of the reason why, and we're gonna get into the ships shortly, is really, when you think of Quark Expeditions, we're specialists in the polar regions, but unlike traditional cruise companies that are squarely, we're mass market, we're luxury, we're premium, we have a different ship for every type of traveler. So depending on your client's price point and priority, we have a ship for everyone. But the main through line is, all we focus on is the Arctic and Antarctica. And in these areas, we've been doing it over 30 years. And these are truly some of the most incredible but hostile and very remote destinations. So kind of like when you go to African DMC to book one of your clients' safaris. Same idea when you have a client looking to travel to these polar regions, why don't you consider us and talk to us, because we really are the polar specialists. So I've already kind of alluded a little bit, but who is that polar traveler? And that polar traveler, they're the one that is interested in a couple of different areas, but when we look at the demographics and we really segment them, they're one, your checklisters. So if you have anyone that you see in your database and you're like, okay, they've done Europe, they've done Asia, look, they've already gone to Australia. We see them starting to check off those continents. Well, Antarctica is definitely going to be one of them. So the checklister, the one that really wants to make sure that they're exploring every continent. The ones that want to learn about what they're doing and where they're going and what they're touching and seeing and smelling and feeling. One thing about Quark Expeditions that really makes us stand out in the industry, in the expedition space, is our guest to expedition team ratio. So these are your ornithologists, your geologists, your biologists. They really are there to help elevate that experience for your clients and bring back that childlike wonder that they have, and so many of us lose as we get older, getting excited about the birds that we see and touching the mica on the side of a huge mountain in Greenland. Those are, when you have that client that's going to get excited about that, that is the client for us. They're the adventurers. We have so many great opportunities. And one thing about expedition travel that I think scares away some clients and even some travel advisors from really diving into it is, they think, oh my gosh, do I have to wear a backpack that's 30 pounds? And I don't like hiking. I really just like taking a leisurely stroll. That is not really what expedition is about. However, Quark Expeditions does have a lot of great options for that type of adventure. And one of the great things about having so many expedition team members on board, especially when we're talking about ships under 200 passengers, is there's enough people around to take those 5 people that they like to summit mountains for fun off, and they can go as far and as fast and as high as they want to hike and take the others somewhere else. And so we have some really great options as well that I'll get into. So those adventures, and we're starting to see a lot of them gravitate towards us because we have such a wide variety of really cool activities, and especially when we talk about Greenland and our helicopter program on the ultramarine. And then, of course, the escapists, the ones that want to get away from it all. And I think we're seeing more and more of that happen. The last few years have been a little tough, I think. We can all admit to that. So there's the ones that really want to reconnect with nature. They really want to get away. And I think that's one of the things that when I entered the world of expedition back in 2018, now I want to say, really attracted me, because I always thought like, oh, I'm such a city person. I love going to cities when I travel, and the remoteness and the beauty, of course, and the learning and everything that expedition had brought to the table is really what attracted me to it, and what attracts your clients and even you guys as travel advisors yourself. I know many of you guys, some may be new, some may be experienced, but sometimes you're like, I'm tired of looking at that Western Mediterranean itinerary. I just want to, dream about South Georgia and the hundreds of thousands of penguins there. And you have your clients that want to do the same thing. So that kind of gives you a little overview of who the polar traveler is, who that polar traveler is with Quark Expeditions. Like I mentioned earlier, there's so many people, so much competition out there that nowadays it's about finding the right supplier to partner with when it comes to selling polar travel and when it comes to recommending, what company to what client's going to be the best fit. So again, moving back to who should I be looking at in my database? I have yet to meet, but I would love to meet them. That polar traveler that goes, I really want to go to Antarctica, but how do I get a passport again? I've never got one of those. So most of the people that travel with us, they're very well traveled already. A lot of them have a lot of interest in nature. Antarctica especially is one of the trio of places that you should go if you are truly an animal lover. The other two is on a safari. Go to.
Rebecca, are you still there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me
Okay.
okay?
You cut out just a little bit there. So if you want to backtrack maybe like 30 seconds or so, just so we can catch that information again.
Okay. Yep, sorry about that. So, okay, backtrack. I think I was probably talking about groups basically, and who that right polar traveler is. So, really is about those that have traveled before. So, they're well traveled. They've done things like the Galapagos, the Canadian Arctic, especially in different Arctic destinations, are great destinations for those that have been to Alaska, as well as groups. So, when you think about those clients that you have and when you're out promoting, really think about those clients that have already traveled and they're already, they've done luxury cruising already. They do luxury FITs. They have an interest in learning more as well as nature. Now I'm going to go a little bit into our ships. So all of our ships are under 200 passengers, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about the benefits to that once I get into talking a bit more about Antarctica. But all of our ships run from 128 to 199 passengers. So it's a really great feel. You get to know everybody gets to know you on board, and it allows us the ability to logistically get you off ship quickly and really into the heart of the destination. So moving into all of our vessels that we use. First off, we have the Ocean Adventurer. I was on her last year in Greenland. I was very fortunate, got to spend 2 weeks, saw the Northern Lights 4 times. She is one of those old school expedition vessels built before anybody really knew what expedition meant. And so she's been renovated. She's absolutely beautiful. What I love though is that she really does have that old school expedition feel to her. So as you're walking down the hallways, you see pinned up on paper, printouts of various information of different animals that we've seen. You go along and you write the name down of the various animals or birds that we might have seen along the way. Beautiful interior spaces. They all have some form of view, all of our ships, so there's no such thing as an inside cabin, so to speak. Main dining, the way that dining works on all of our vessels, on all of our itineraries, is with under 200 passengers, you only need one dining time. So great main dining room. And then moving on to the World Explorer. Now she is our all suite, all balcony, beautiful premium vessels, kind of where I place her. And it's so hard I feel a little bit bad for her, you guys, and I'm gonna say because she came out in 2020, so she got kind of a short first season for obvious reasons, but she's absolutely beautiful. Groups tend to love her because she has that all suite, all balcony, very standardized cabins, beautiful pool and fitness area, great deck to walk around, and you'll see with the interior spaces. We have traditional balconies, and then we also have all kind of, if you can imagine, and if you know, there's some river cruise ships that I believe have the same style. So the other balcony style is if you imagine instead of a walkout balcony, that balcony is in your actual room space, and then you have that window that kind of comes down half of the way that creates the balcony itself. So those are the two different style balconies that are on the World Explorer, and she's absolutely a beautiful, beautiful vessel. And then we have our ultramarine. So our ultramarine is our shining star, brand new, fully luxury in terms of just a true luxury polar vessel. So we took all of our 30 years of experience and we went, okay, now what do we want our next evolution in polar cruising to look like, in polar expedition to look like? And with that came the ultramarine. So not only does she have absolutely beautiful spaces, very open, modern feel. This is one of our balcony suites. We have solo panorama spaces. So these solo suites, what you don't see on the other side is, of course, it's a floor-to-ceiling, wall-to-wall window view. And let me just touch upon actually briefly with the solo cabin up here. You know, the solo panorama rooms, those ones are priced for one guest. They do most of the time sell out very quickly, but we also have a solo share program. So if you do have some clients that they do not mind sharing with somebody of the same gender, they can go ahead and basically book it. They don't have to pay the single supplement, and then they'll be paired closer on to departure. Now, if we do not find somebody or nobody else takes that solo share spot, they will be placed in a cabin on their own. I would not promote it though, you guys. This is a very popular program. We actually have quite a few solo travelers that travel with us. Again, under 200 passengers. I think it really lends itself to getting to know everybody and making friends quickly. And then also, even when it comes down to the activities, I know myself, I travel solo quite often actually. And when I went on my trip, I went by myself, and it was absolutely great because you are in different zodiacs doing different activities. So you get to know the people in the zodiacs, you get to know the people that you're sitting around when you're be doing a recap or some activities. So that's kind of how our solo program works. And then of course we have suites, we have penthouse suites and owner suites, and the cabins get bigger as the suites go ahead. And one thing though is, you know, we are an absolutely luxurious polar style vessel, but you're not going to ever see us have butlers on board. That's just not our style. You know, it's a very casual atmosphere, and it really is all about providing the comforts that guests are used to, especially because we're seeing more and more of those luxury cruisers come in and check out, you know, what is this expedition thing all about? But we do not pride ourselves on being the company that's going to be all about the butlers, and yes, our spa is beautiful, but it's not going to be all about the spa services. You know, we don't want you thinking, oh my goodness, get me back as soon as possible from the Zodiac ride because I have my massage, you know, at 4 p.m. and I can't miss my massage. That is, there's a ship for every type of client these days, and the right type of client for us is the one that wants the heated bathroom floors, maybe if they're taking the ultramarine, but they don't, they prioritize that experience off the ship and in the destination that they're exploring. And then again, just briefly kind of touching upon, you know, our 3 decades of experience in the polar region, and when it comes to building a polar vessel and not just a vessel for anyone, everywhere, going everywhere in all types of environments. You know, the water level zodiac hangers. That's another thing. It really does nearly half the amount of time for guests to get, you know, off the ship and into the zodiacs and out exploring the destinations. And then there's also a full wraparound deck. And I love that so much. You know, I've been in the industry over 15 years. And one thing that I see more and more with new builds coming out is you lose that wraparound deck. And I totally get it because you can add more balconies to it if you don't have a full wraparound deck. So that space is really valuable. But that space is so valuable on an expedition because you want to be outside looking for the animals or looking at the amazing towering glaciers in front of you. You want to be able to very safely but quickly walk around, you know, going from port to starboard side if, you know, one thing is spotted on one side and, you know, there may be some whales on the other side. And you spend so much time outdoors. And so I love that with our brand new Ultramarine, we put this full wraparound deck and even more clever, the full wraparound deck from the dining area. You have these amazing panorama views, obviously not a bad seat in the dining room, but you also have doors that go directly around or directly outside to that deck. So I will tell you, if it's in the middle of dinner time, even though we have beautiful, fantastic food, if all of a sudden a polar bear is spotted or, you know, a mama cub spotted with her baby, the captain or the expedition leader is going to get on the speaker and you're going to drop what you're eating and you're going to go right outside because that is why you're on an expedition, to explore these really remote destinations. And that's why your clients are traveling with Quark Expeditions. So I love those little details about the Ultramarine. And then finally, but of course, the two twin engine helicopters that we have on board in our helicopter program. So everywhere that we could operate, so the two exceptions are over South Georgia and all over Svalbard. We do have included flight scene for your clients, regardless of what category that they book on the Ultramarine. And then we have some additional um, uh, adventure options, as we call them, that they can go ahead and book that also the helicopters provide different experiences. Now, one thing I do like to always say and mention is we didn't just wake up one day as we were designing this ship and go, you know, we should just like throw some helicopters on there because it would be really cool to kind of get that bird's eye view. You know, we've been operating helicopters in the polar regions for as long as we've been operating as a company. However, this was the first time that we were able to really truly flesh out a full helicopter program that we were able to offer in the Arctic and Antarctica, and not just a one-off, two-off here and there, depending on what itineraries we were doing and what ship we were chartering. So the helicopter program, now that the Ultramarine has been out for a little bit, very well received. I'm always so jealous when I see my colleagues images and videos. It's that they really, it's about getting that bird's eye view of these vast, beautiful areas, or using it as transportation to take you from, you know, the ship to the very peak of a mountaintop that, you know, no one has ever been before, but there you are standing and getting this beautiful, beautiful view. Greenland is an excellent example of where we use the helicopters really to the maximum. Now, what is a day like, you know, as a Quark Expeditions passenger? So just to give you a little bit of an overview, now that you've seen the ships, I hope you're thinking of a few clients in mind that this might be the right type of experience for, you know, what is that experience? So you wake up, you have breakfast on any number of our ships, and then you're off to the first excursion. So unless you're having a sea day, you're doing two types of excursions a day. So first one might be if you're in the Arctic, a community visit. You could be doing zodiac cruising in the Arctic or Antarctica. You could be doing maybe flight seeing if you're on the Ultramarine. you're doing your first excursion. Then you're coming back, you're having lunch. Maybe that hike got you got a little hungry. I know it always does. I find myself so hungry and eating all the time when I'm on these trips because you can be as active as you want to be. So again, not trying to scare you off. If you have some clients that are like, oh, I don't want to be hiking 2 times a day. That's definitely not always the case. And anyways, so after lunch, you're going to have your second ship excursion. And one thing I do want to mention too, when I talk about these excursions, when I go into the included and the add-on adventure options, that the adventure options will take place during one of these first or second excursion times as well. So if you don't spend a penny more on adventure options, and on my 2-week trip, I did not do any additional adventure options, you're still going to be out and about and busy each time. And then so you're back from your second excursion. They have more food for you, you guys. Like I'm telling you, there's food all the time to be eaten, if that's what you want or if you're hungry. So off from the second excursion, there's always a quick bite to eat, and then you go into your recap or your lecture, or maybe there's some lecture time or briefings. And recaps, they happen in the evening. They're right before dinner time, and it kind of goes through maybe what you've seen that day, what you're doing tomorrow, very informal kind of overview of everything. And then you're off to dinner. After dinner, a lot of people go up to the lounge area, maybe have a nightcap or so. And one thing that I loved about my trip during that lounge time is some of the days the expedition team members would take that opportunity to go ahead and share a little bit about a story or something that they've done in their life that maybe wasn't related to the Arctic or Antarctica, but maybe it was something that a big project that they worked on shortly after university, or are these expedition team members, they are so valuable. They really do make the trip amazing for your clients. Now, moving into a few of those included experiences. So what are you doing during those excursions? So you're doing zodiac cruising, like the bottom right. Zodiac cruising is one of my favorite things. You always see beautiful, phenomenal things. So right in front of you, and especially down in Antarctica, for instance, there's so many opportunities to see different seals and of course the penguins, but the penguins you're going to see on land as well as you're hiking around the peninsula. So hiking's also included. We have the flight scene. We have the infamous polar plunge, you guys. And yes, that is me on the top left, and that is me doing my polar plunge in Greenland. It's a great time to mention we always have a professional photographer on board. So if you want to have some great street cred, that's a great opportunity. But we do the polar plunge on our trips as well. And then also one thing about, as I'm talking about the photographer, it's really great because something that you have available, your clients have available to them a few weeks when they get back from travel, is it's a full photo journal, but it's a digital photo journal. So what it really is it's a Dropbox essentially of all of the images that these photographers are taking throughout the trip, along with images that some of the guests share. I am guilty. I am not a very good photographer. I am a take out whatever iPhone I have in my pocket and snap a photo photographer. So it's really great to have access and to know that at no additional cost, there's this professional photographer taking amazing images on a trip that I'll have access to, as well as things like menus and coordinates, and especially in the Arctic when we're visiting different towns and communities, it talks a little bit about the coordinates and where you were, so you don't have to figure out how to write, it's a tournament down really quickly before you leave, so you can tell your friends that's where you were. So that is available at no additional cost, just another thing that's included. And then we go into paid adventure options. So one thing that I do find a little fascinating is with the paid adventure options, one buying habit change. And I think a lot of it is because you're getting so many more cruisers coming to the expedition space in the last couple years versus previously in like 2018 and 2019 is, paid adventure options are starting to pre-book and sell out. So I would highly encourage you having that discussion with your clients about if they want to add on anything else like camping or kayaking, or we even have, as you see that bottom right, mountain biking. So we have a hella mountain biking program in Greenland that's available, where your clients will take the helicopter up to the peak of a mountain, and then there'll already be the mountain bikes up there, and they'll be able to ride down. Now that truly is somebody that enjoys mountain biking, not like, oh, I took my e-bike down, Santa Monica Pier the other day, one of those. But the paid adventure options, you can pre-book them. Highly recommend you have those conversations with your clients. And you get paid commission on them as well. So all the more better. And then lastly, I do just want to touch upon, before I go into the itineraries, the expedition team members. We have an expedition team to guest ratio on average of 1 to 6. And that is the best in the industry, you guys. And they really are the ones that bring to life what you're doing, what you're seeing. We are the only company that has what we call the Quark Academy. So what that is, and keep in mind, you guys, all we do is polar. So all we do is the Arctic and Antarctica. So in this season in between, we don't do those sort of we're about 4 or 5 weeks on each shoulder season where we're not operating. So we take advantage of that time, and part of that is the Quark Academy. So it's, again, a very casual atmosphere on board, but it's to get all of our expedition team members on the same page and getting them working well together. And so many of them have been with us for well over a decade. And our expedition team members, another thing that sets us apart is they have been on average 140 polar specific trips. These are the best of the best, and we're so fortunate to have them with us, because so much of what makes expedition special is, it's not just a traditional Western Mediterranean cruise or river cruise where there's so much predictability to it. There's a lot of nuances and taking advantage of really amazing serendipitous moments. Like on my trip, we were departing Greenland, and there was a moment when over 20 whales showed up as we were leaving and exiting the Denmark Strait, and it was golden hour, and the ship just stopped. The expedition leader talked to the captain, and we just had this ad hoc. The marine biologist came out and started giving us a short little lecture. They brought out some of the telescopes. They brought out some of the extra binoculars, although I highly recommend you bring your own binoculars. And it was just such a great experience. And, that experience was because we took advantage of the whales that were there. Instead of just going, oh, we need to make it, to our point A by X, Y, Z o'clock. And that is the decisions, and that's the type of experience that the expedition team members help provide. And that's why having such an experienced team with us is so important, and really, really helps make Quark stand out. We're all about polar. Our expedition team members are all about polar, and they really do make the experience so special for your clients. Okay, now a brief run through of the destinations that we go. I can talk about each and every destination in depth. As you guys can imagine, when you work for a company, everyone that works for the company, whether it's shoreside or on the ships, we're passionate about polar. That's why we work for these companies, that we only go to these 2 destinations. So definitely encourage you guys to reach out to if you want to learn a little bit more. But Antarctica. So brief overview of everywhere we go. We have trips between 8 days and 23 days. We hit the Antarctic Peninsula, the Falkland Islands, South Georgia. We do have a Patagonia trip near the end of the year, which is the perfect time to go and send your clients. We get into some really great nooks and crannies, and it's right before it's that shoulder season, so it's not crowded at all. And then Snow Hill Island, where the emperor penguins are. Our season actually just about pretty much kicked off, goes through the end of April. So one of the things that I really encourage my travel partners to do is to talk to your clients about what they're envisioning it looking like when they say that they want to go to Antarctica. Because a lot of that dictates what time of year they should be going. So, do they want to see the penguin chicks running around and seeing still as many seals and whales as possible? And are they all about just that animal experience? Well, then they probably want to go sometime January, February. That's a fantastic time to go. You'll see the penguins chasing after their moms, and it's just so lively and so forth. So best time to go, that's our season, and it really helps one of those qualifying questions you should be asking. When I talked a little bit more about, only 200, under 200 passengers, and I mentioned logistically why that's really important. That's because of this that you see over here. So I won't go too much into the weeds, because as I'm sure you guys have noticed already, I can definitely talk quite a bit if you give me enough, if you give me time. So if you're over 500 passengers, you're not stopping on the Antarctic Peninsula. If you're on a cruise ship, you're just cruising along, you're viewing the glaciers, you're waving hi to the penguins, but you are not getting off the ship. If you're between 201 and 500 passengers, you are getting off the ship, but logistically, it's impossible for everybody to get off at one time during one of those short excursion time slots. And that is because, and as you look at the category 1 passengers, you'll get it, only 100 people are allowed to be on land on the Antarctic Peninsula at any given time. So when you have less than 200 passengers, you're able to accommodate everybody on land because you have some people doing zodiac cruising and maybe some people doing some kayaking, and then you have some people on land, and those that are zodiac cruising and those that are on land can swap within that time frame, so everyone experiences where they're going at the same time in that same short excursion time. So that's why category 1 ships and being under 200 passengers is so important, especially when we talk about Antarctica. I mean, we talk a lot about the types of experiences that you guys can have when you're a big ship versus small ship, just in the cruise industry in general. But here's one of the areas where it really, really does make a huge difference. And again, that's also one of the reasons why your clients should be traveling with Quark Expeditions if they want to go ahead and get off as much as possible and have that experience on land, hiking around, exploring the Antarctic Peninsula. I mean, if you have those clients, you know that all they care about is they just want that one selfie or that one photo with that Antarctica flag of them stepping foot so they could say, check, I did it, and they can go back to, the sauna or whatever else that's important to them. That's fantastic. There's a different category ship. Put them on a category 2 ship. That'll accommodate them. That'll be a much better price point, quite frankly, because what you're paying for and part of what you pay for when you travel with Quark Expeditions is being on a ship that's under 200 passengers, being able to get off and explore and learn and understand, why is that elephant seal acting that way by one of the marine biologists? And that's the type of client that we attract, the one that's what they care about. And they also want that picture, don't get me wrong. And we have, again, that professional photographer on there to take that photo for them. But their priority is the entire experience, not just having that one and done and seeing that they did it. So moving on quickly, should I fly or sail to Antarctica? Now, you'll notice, and that's a very traditional itinerary, essentially. You're doing 2 days on the Drake, both directions, and you're spending a few days on the Antarctic Peninsula getting out. Now, we also have, and this is a very popular itinerary as well, where you can fly the Drake. We've been operating this well over a decade. And instead of having to cruise the Drake, you get to fly over and you land on King George Island, and that's where you pick up the ship. So we have 2 different versions. We have a 8-day, and then we have one that's a little bit longer where you'll see the Antarctic Circle. You'll go ahead and you'll cross the Antarctic Circle. Now, one thing that I do want to mention that's so special about sailing the Drake, other than the fact that you get to kind of wear that badge of honor and say that you've sailed the Drake, is you have all of that great time to sort of acclimate yourself to what you're about to do. So I loved when I went down to Antarctica, having those extra sea days and having those lectures all about the seabirds. And, I did not think that I would find an albatross so fascinating, but by the end of the first lecture, you're just out there with your binoculars and it's just absolutely enthralling. Like, so, giving up that time, it's not just that, oh, it's just a sea day. It's the time where you get to know your different fellow travelers. You're learning a lot because you have so much great lecture time. One thing that I'll hear sometimes from people that take these shorter 7 to 10 day trips that we offer is, man, we did so much, but I just kind of wanted to relax a little bit. Or, I wish we had 2 or 3 lectures, but I wish we had time for more and not just, the quick extra lectures during recap or after dinner. And when you pick the longer trips that have the sea days, that's one of the big benefits. So I think that's an absolutely great benefit to sailing the Drake. And one thing too is, I say that I get seasick just looking at the ocean. I do have motion sickness, but I've done it. Everyone that does get seasick, a lot of us have our tricks or little things that we do and we prep for it. And on pretty much all of our ships now, I think we could say, especially for sure the World Explorer and Ultramarine, they pipe in the lectures as well. So if you need to lay down a little bit, you still have that opportunity. So we have trips, like I said, all the way from those 8 days fly the Drake to that 23-day. This is pretty much the itinerary that I did, although I didn't quite cross the Antarctic Circle, but Antarctica, South Georgia, and the Falkland Islands. I will say that if you have one of those clients that absolutely loves animals, they're going to want to go to South Georgia if they can. If you've seen any documentary with South Georgia and you see hundreds and hundreds of thousands of king penguins, that is in South Georgia. I mean, you see tens of thousands of penguins in Antarctica, but the hundreds of thousands, that is in South Georgia, and I highly recommend it, especially for the animal lovers. They can be up to 3 feet tall too, so I'm about 5'1". If you've ever met me in person, you know how short I am, and it's quite an experience when you see thousands of king penguins in front of you on a beach, and they're all about the size of your nephew. So briefly moving up to the Arctic, same idea, 8 days to 23 days, multiple different itineraries. We hit Svalbard. Some people also know of it as Spitsbergen, Greenland, and the Canadian Arctic. Best time to go. Really, we line it up with whether or not you're seeing the animals, the communities. Some of it's ice locked during parts of time of the year. So unlike Antarctica, where it's easier cut and dry, this is the best time to go with this. In the Arctic, it's a little bit different because the Arctic is a little bit of a different destination. So just a few highlights. So Spitsbergen, also you might hear it referred to as Svalbard or the Svalbard Archipelago. Spitsbergen is where the polar bears go. So that is really when you have clients that are photographers, animal lovers, they want to do the polar bears, Spitsbergen is the place to be. We have trips anywhere from 7 days all the way up to 14 days. And then what we did in 2025 is we sort of streamlined it a bit more. So we have more 12 days. We kind of met in the middle of the average, and the days and the spent time exploring Spitsbergen really is about the days spending, looking for those polar bears. You also see walruses, reindeer, a variety of different seabirds, but the polar bears, that seems to be the main attraction when it comes to clients asking for to see Spitsbergen. And I do want to mention too that Spitsbergen, unlike Antarctica, where you just land and it is penguins just absolutely right there in your face, you can't avoid them. Spitsbergen is more of like an African safari, where it is part of the fun is searching for them. They are hidden sometimes. We have a expedition team member on the bridge 24 hours a day. We go when it's basically 24 hours a day sunlight to maximize the opportunity of spotting the bears, but it is a different experience. So if somebody has been to Antarctica which a lot of times, if you have someone that's been to Antarctica, the Arctic is a wonderful opportunity for them to still have a similar but not the same experience. You know, that's one big difference, is that it's more about searching and getting that dopamine hit when you spot that family of polar bears, and it's not as just land on the beach, get off the Zodiac, and hope that the penguins kind of move out of the way, actually, because they're just right there in front of you. We have the Canadian Arctic, another great destination. You know, one thing that's great about the Arctic is that it has a little bit of everything. It's so diverse, and when you go to so many different areas too, that's where you get to experience. You know, you have the ice, the towering mountains, the amazing hiking. You have communities that have settled there, communities of a few hundred to tens of thousands, and they are so proud of their history and who they are and their traditions, that they will offer to share it with us, and you really get to be part of that opportunity as well. So and of course the animals, and depending on where you're going and the itinerary that you're doing, you may not see very many animals, and some you may see hundreds plus pods of whales and walruses and polar bears and a whole plethora of animals. So the Arctic is really not one size fits all. And that's the main message I want to kind of get across with this part. Greenland, absolutely loved Greenland. These are just some photos actually of my experience of spending 2 weeks in the Northeast Greenland area. You know, I said earlier, I'm not a professional photographer by any means. So these photos, these are the ones that are taken by either guests on board that's shared in that digital Dropbox, or by the professional photographer on board. So it's so awesome to have those experiences. This is one of the itineraries in 2025 that is basically the itinerary I did, just cut a little bit shorter. And then lastly, I want to talk just briefly about our Quark Expeditions Partner Portal. We just launched it. I know that there is a worksheet or handout on here. I know that I will get your information afterwards, so I will make sure in my follow-up I send it to you. But this is our travel partner sort of portal, and I know that pretty much everyone has one of these, but not everyone has Parker the polar bear. Now, Parker is our virtual polar assistant. And what I mean by that is he is powered by AI. Don't be afraid. I mean, how can you be afraid when he's got things like that on? But he's there to help make things a little bit easier. You know, these are just a couple of questions that I kind of put in, and keep in mind, it's not perfect. And it doesn't replace, you know, calling into one of our polar travel advisors, which we're open 24 hours a day, 6 days a week, almost the full 7. There's just a couple of hours. You know, we have a worldwide global sales team that's there to help you. So if you have any questions, you know, really utilize us. But if you have a few questions about, you know, what should I pack, how many square feet are in this cabin category, Parker's definitely there to help you. We're really excited. I think we're the first in the industry to really utilize this technology to kind of help save you guys a couple more minutes. Although I will say I'm proud that I know sometimes hold issues can still be an issue, but our hold time is under 2 minutes. So again, reach out when you need your help, whether it be to your business development manager or to one of our polar travel advisors. That's what we're there for. We know all we do is talk about polar in the Arctic and Antarctica, but that's not necessarily the case. So this is my information. If you go online though, you'll have information to the whole team. We are a global team, so we're all here to help you. And yeah, thank you so much. I know I've taken up so much of that time. Sorry about that. But yes, please, you know, reach out if you need anything. And I really do tell my travel partners that's one of the best ways to utilize us, you know, especially being a travel partner or travel advisor myself previously. I know that you're getting inundated with a million emails from every supplier, and you have to figure out how everyone's travel, you know, advisor portal works and all of that. But really, when you give us a call, we are the specialists in the Arctic and Antarctica. That's what we do. We do a lot of 3-way calls with your clients, And we know that you might not be selling it all the time. You may be only selling these regions a couple of times a year. And we're there to help handhold you the entire way. Or we're there to help really get together and make a business plan and figure out how you can incorporate expedition in this huge growing market into really boosting and leveraging your sales and travel. So, okay, now I promise I'm done. Thank you guys.
Rebecca, thank you so much for sharing all that information about what Quark has to offer, all the expeditions, the tips. Could you actually go over and just speak about the partner portal flyer that is included there in the handouts for the attendees? I think it talks about marketing,
Yeah,
materials that they can download, the latest
and
news
let me actually
offers.
go through. Yes, so our whole partner portal, we completely revamped it. As you know, and especially considering, you know, with a professional photographer on board, we have also an in-house videographer. So we have a ton of marketing tools for you guys to use, whether it be videos or images. You can access that on the Polar partner portal. Gosh, they keep on naming all of these things. It's making it quite hard. We also have our Polar Pro. So that's our training program. So really bite-sized 10, 15-minute modules. There, if you've ever done some companies that I will not name, but where they're like, oh my gosh, am I getting college credit for this? It's nothing like that. But if you do complete it, and also if you make your first booking with us, I think it's within 6 months or so, then you also get a gift card as well, but that really helps dive in a bit more. And then of course it'll have brochures, a link to either order brochures, download them. We have digital brochures that have, it's kind of cool because you can, you know, with a little touch of a finger, it'll take you to a video or something like that, and different tools. So where it's a constant improvement, we're always adding to it and adding more things. One day, fingers crossed, sometime soon, there'll even be sort of a quoting tool that's part of that as well. But really utilize the Polar Partner program for not only talking to Parker, but learning more, getting access to marketing tools and the latest promotions. Especially, I know this is being recorded, so this part might be a little outdated, but we have Black Friday coming up, so we'll have, I'm sure, some deals coming out and being announced within the next few days. So you can find it all there.
Amazing, thank you. And I'm sure that you will see a lot of our attendees taking advantage of that Black Friday sale with all the information that you've provided. I do want to let you know that some of our attendees are saying that the presentation was great, it was fabulous, and it was all the information that they needed and that they were curious about. So kudos to you, Rebecca, on putting together a great presentation for us today. If there are any other questions, if you want to put that into the portal, we do have a couple more minutes here. We do have one question that just came in. For bookings, are they able to call in to make those bookings?
Yes, yep. Calling in is the best way to make a reservation. Also, though, I mean, and again, this is kind of thinking back with my travel advisor hat. You know, if you really work well with one of the Polar travel advisors, you know, you can just start a relationship with them. Well, I'm going to end up with a HR module after this in my inbox. So you can email them back and forth and stuff like that. So they're there to help kind of quote and make bookings and apply any applicable shipboard credit or promotions or whatever have you. And then we of course have an amazing customer experience team once that kind of take over with all of the little questions once you go from there.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That's a perfect response. Last thing, I know that you spoke about a lot of the expeditions, the excursions, a lot of the activities that clients can do once you all land. With being in such a remote area and weather obviously becoming a factor. Let's say a client books an excursion or books to go on one of the adventures that you all offer and the weather happens. How are they notified if anything changes to the itinerary or to the schedule? And then what are their options afterwards?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, especially because, as you noted, expedition, it's really about, you can make the best plans, and especially down in Antarctica when you're going after permits and it's a lottery system and it's very highly regulated. What happens when the weather comes along, and that really speaks a lot to the experience of the expedition team, because it's about getting to that sometimes plan D, E, and F before guests even realize anything's been changed. However, if there is something that really does, make a material impact to the itinerary, what they're doing, what they're experiencing, not just, oh, we thought we were going to do landing in this area, but no, now we're going to Pflugerville because the weather, and we swap permits. Something beyond that, they are, most of the time it happens on board. So it's happening in the moment, and they will all be notified by the expedition leader. So again, and I talking to the skill and the quality of what these expedition team members do. Um, so much of it is that, the weather is happening now, or we hear that this is a great, amazing area to go see polar bears, but we're going to have to shift gears, and we might skip, doing what we thought we were going to do in XYZ, but we heard from this other ship that we really want to be in this spot. It's delicately handling all of that. I mean, you guys all know your clients. I know who my clients were, and when you have somebody that, they got their PhD and specialized in orca behavior, that's also telling your clients, listen, we have this great plan. This great plan really didn't go as what we thought it was going to go, but this is what's going to happen now. We're here to support you. XYZ is going on. It takes a lot of skill to do that. And I've seen that firsthand. And I think we've all, if you've been in the industry longer than 3 years, you've experienced it firsthand that things happen. And when we talk about things happening in expedition and excursions, it's not really like, oh, we decided to swap out, Monte Carlo for con or something like that. So we're sending an email ahead of time. If that happens, on those rare cases where something might happen like that, we let you know ahead of time. We let you guys, the travel advisor, know before, and kind of give you a little breather so you can let your clients know. A lot of times you'll hear from us, the BDMs, and we have a plan in place. But that hardly happens. What's more likely to happen is something during that day, during that excursion. Um, we need to make some changes or XYZ, and the expedition team is empowered to do what they need to do. We've been around for over 30 years, so in most cases it's definitely not our first, second, or third rodeo operating in harsh conditions. So we try to always make things right, though, and I think that's one thing that um, everyone can be very proud of that works for Quark Expeditions, is we try to make the decisions that still make things whole for you guys as travel partners, but also that makes the clients both understand that, we are operating in these remote areas, but that we're there to provide them an amazing experience, because that's what they paid for and that's why they chose to travel with us.
No, I really do think that everything that you've presented, it really speaks to the expertise that your team brings, and everything that you've presented today is very unique. And I think a lot of our attendees are very thankful for your time today. Rebecca, if you want to just go back to the last slide here so that they can catch any contact information that they may have missed for you, if they have any further questions, that would be great. Awesome. And I just want to thank you again for putting this together for us, spending an hour of your time. I know that you're probably super busy. And I just want to thank you for being a partner to CLIA and a resource to our travel agents.
Yeah, thank you so much. And we are so happy. We are, I think I failed to mention this at the beginning, we are new CLIA members. So we're so happy for the partnership, and definitely reach out to myself, or like I said, you can find, I think, the whole team on the portal. But yeah, if you need anything, we're obviously all very passionate about polar and helping grow your business. But thank you so much for your time, you guys, and for joining me for an hour after I know we've all seen and stared at so many webinars. Really appreciate it.
This one was very enjoyable. Thank you so much again. All right. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.